Let me ask you a question that might change the way you see your backyard or your balcony starting today. What if I told you that August and September, those months when many people think the planting season is already over, are actually one of the most generous and most ignored windows of the entire year for anyone who wants fresh food coming straight from their own garden? Well, that's exactly it. While most people put away their tools thinking summer was the last chance, those who know the subject know that the end of summer and the very beginning of fall are the perfect moment to plant a whole bunch of vegetables that simply love the cooler weather that's coming. And look how interesting. Many of these vegetables don't just tolerate the cold. They actually get even tastier after a light frost because the cold makes them concentrate their sugars and turn sweeter and more flavorful. It's nature working in your favor without your having to do almost anything. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to 15 wonderful plants to sow now in this window of August and September and show you how, with a little bit of planning, you can have a harvest coming from your garden practically all year long, carrying through fall, winter, and connecting right into spring. And I want to start by making one thing very clear, because it's worth gold and almost no one explains it properly. Fall gardening is not the same thing as spring gardening, and that's why so many people get frustrated. In spring, we plant while the days are warming up and getting longer. Now, at the end of summer, we plant while the days are cooling down and getting shorter. That changes a few important little things in the way we care for the plants, and I'm going to teach you each one of them throughout the video without any complication, in a way anyone can do, even someone who has never planted a thing in their life. Oh, and an important detail before we begin, the exact dates and the best choices depend a bit on the region where you live and on when your first frost arrives, so treat my suggestions as a caring guide and not as a rigid calendar rule. If you don't know when frost usually comes in your area, rest easy, because further along, I'm going to teach you a simple way to find that out and to calculate the ideal planting date for each crop, which is the secret that separates a bountiful fall garden from one that doesn't take. And that's why I really want you to stay with me until the very end of this video without skipping any part, because it's no good my just giving you the list of the 15 plants and leaving you stranded when it comes to caring for them. So here's our plan. First, I'm going to introduce you to the plants divided into groups to make it easy to understand and to choose, starting with the fast-growing leafy greens, moving on to the sweet fall roots, the cool-loving cruciferous vegetables, and the herbs and seasonings that can't be missing from your kitchen. After that, in the last two topics, I'm going to hand you what really makes the difference, the secrets of fall planting, how to calculate the right date, prepare the bed, and protect the little plants from the cold, and finally, the most important thing of all, how to harvest intelligently to have food all year round, including the trick of harvesting the same plant several times. So go ahead and leave your like, subscribe to the channel, share this video with that friend or family member who also loves getting their hands in the soil, and tell me in the comments what part of the world you're watching from and what the climate is like in your region, because that helps a lot when it comes to choosing what to plant. And comment the word harvest too, so I know you're here with me. Let's begin right now with the first group of plants. Let's begin with the most rewarding group of all for anyone planting now, at the end of summer, because it pays you back quickly, the fast-growing leafy greens. And the first of them is the queen of salads, lettuce. Lettuce is perfect for this time of year precisely because it hates the strong heat of the peak of summer, which makes it bolt, that is, shoot up a stalk and turn bitter. Now with the days cooling down, it grows happy, tender, and sweet, just the way we love it. You can sow lettuce directly in the bed or in a pot on the balcony. And a golden tip is to prefer the loose leaf types, the ones we harvest leaf by leaf, instead of the ones that form a closed head, because that way you harvest for much longer from the same plant. Right beside it, I place spinach, which is a true champion of the cold. Spinach loves the cool climate, germinates well when the soil is no longer scorching. And the coolest part is that it withstands low temperatures with impressive resilience. In many regions, with a simple bit of protection, it carries through a good part of the winter, giving you leaves. Sow it a little deeper than the lettuce and keep the soil moist at the start, and it repays you with abundance. And the leafy greens group doesn't stop there, because there are two more that I won't give up on at this time of year. The third is arugula, for those who like that spicy, striking little flavor that brings any salad to life. Arugula is perhaps the most generous of all in speed. It germinates impressively fast and in a few weeks is already ready for the first harvests, which makes it perfect for anyone who's impatient or just starting out and wants to see results soon so as not to get discouraged. And the freshness of fall makes it even tastier and less bitter than in the heat. The fourth leafy green is Swiss chard, the one with the colorful stems, which besides being beautiful and turning the garden into a party of colors, is incredibly resilient and productive. Swiss chard is the type you plant once and harvest from for months on end, because by taking the outer leaves, it keeps producing new leaves from the center, non-stop. It handles the cold well and is one of the most tolerant and easy plants for those who are learning, forgiving the little beginner's mistakes. All four of these leafy greens share the same wonderful advantage. They grow fast, take up little space, and even fit in a pot. And here's the secret that multiplies the production of all these leafy greens. So pay attention, because this is worth several videos, instead of sowing everything at once on a single day and then having a bunch of lettuce ready at the same time, unable to eat it all. Do what's called succession planting. In practice, it's simple. You sow a little bit every 1 or 2 weeks in waves. That way, instead of a flood of leaves all at once, you have a continuous and organized harvest, always with fresh new leaves ready week after week. It's a smart gardener's trick that makes all the difference, and that most people only discover after a long time. I'll go deeper into this idea in the last topic, because it's the key to harvesting all year long. But for now, keep this. Leafy greens are planted little by little in waves. And if these fast leafy greens have already made you want to run to the backyard, get ready, because the next group of plants grows hidden under the soil and holds a delicious surprise. They're vegetables that get even sweeter precisely because of the cold that's coming. So don't go anywhere, because we're going to dig up this second group now. Now we dive into the group that grows hidden under the soil, and that holds that delicious surprise I promised, the fall roots, which get even sweeter because of the cold. And the first is everyone's darling, the carrot. The carrot is one of those plants we sow directly in its final spot, because it doesn't like to be transplanted, and its secret is loose, fluffy soil without stones or clods, so that the root can go down straight and beautiful instead of coming out crooked. Sown now, at the end of summer, they grow in the cool weather and when that fall chill hits. The magic happens. The carrot converts part of its starch into sugar as a natural defense and turns absurdly sweeter than the summer one. Many people say they only came to love carrots after eating one harvested in the cold. Right beside it comes the most impatient and rewarding vegetable of all, the radish. If you have children at home, or if you yourself are impatient and want to see super fast results, the radish is your best friend. It's one of the fastest vegetables there is, going from seed to plate in a few weeks. It loves the cool climate, takes up almost no space, and is perfect for filling the empty little corners between the other plants. And the roots group still has 2 more gems that love the fall. The third is the beet, and it's generous in a special way because it's 2 vegetables in one. Down below, the sweet red root slowly fattens up, and up above, the leaves, which many people throw away without knowing, are delicious and nutritious, and can be harvested little by little and used like the leafy greens we saw, sauteed or in a salad. In other words, you harvest the leaves while you wait for the root to grow, with no waste at all. The beet also gets sweeter with the chill and is quite resilient. And the fourth root is the turnip, that old and humble vegetable that's been somewhat forgotten, but that's a true treasure of fall planting. The turnip grows fast, is rustic and strong, handles the cold well, and just like the beet, gives you both parts. The root, great in fall and winter soups and stews, and the leaves, which are super tasty sauteed. All these roots share the same advantage. Once mature, many of them can wait in the cold soil, being harvested as needed, like a living pantry in your backyard. And here's a golden secret specific to the roots that almost every beginner gets wrong and then can't understand why it didn't work out: thinning. When you sow roots like carrots, beets, and turnips, it's natural for too many little seedlings to sprout, crowded right up against each other. And here's the point that hurts the heart but is necessary. You need to pull out the weakest ones, leaving a little space between the ones that stay, so that each root has room to fatten up. If you leave them all crowded together, feeling sorry to pull any, they compete for space and nutrients, and you end up with a bunch of thin, crooked roots the size of a pencil, instead of a few beautiful ones. And look how nice, in the case of the beet and the turnip, those little seedlings you pull out in the thinning don't go to the trash. They become a tender and delicious little salad, so nothing is wasted. Do the thinning without pity, and your harvest will thank you. And if these sweet roots have already won you over, get ready, because the next group is made up of robust and nutritious vegetables that are, perhaps, the greatest cold lovers of the whole garden, the ones that stand firm through the heart of winter. So don't go anywhere, because we're going to meet this third powerful group now. Now we reach the group of the true heroes of fall and winter, those robust vegetables that are the greatest cold lovers of the whole garden, the cruciferous vegetables. And the first is broccoli, a vegetable that was practically made for cool weather. Broccoli, when planted in strong heat, suffers and goes past its point quickly, but in the fall it grows firm, strong, and forms those beautiful tight heads. And there's a detail almost no one tells. After you harvest the main central head, if you leave the plant in place and keep caring for it, it usually produces several smaller heads on the sides, the side shoots, which yield extra harvests for weeks. So it's a plant that gives and keeps on giving. Right beside it, I place kale, which to me is the absolute queen of cold resilience. Kale is impressive. It not only withstands the winter, but many types get sweeter and more tender after taking a frost, exactly like the roots. It's one of those plants you harvest leaf by leaf, from the bottom up, and it keeps growing at the top, giving you food for months and months on end. If you're a beginner and want a guaranteed victory in the cold, kale is a sure bet, and the cruciferous vegetables still bring two more champions worth the effort. The third is cauliflower, cousin of broccoli, which forms that white, delicate head. I'll be honest with you, cauliflower is a little more demanding and sensitive than the others. It likes a stable climate and constant watering without big temperature scares. But when it comes out well, the satisfaction of harvesting a perfect cauliflower from your own garden is enormous and worth every bit of care. A tip: some types ask you to fold the outer leaves over the top of the head to protect it, keeping it nice and white. And the fourth cruciferous vegetable is cabbage, that dense, heavy, layered vegetable that's a true food store. Cabbage is resilient, handles the cold well, and once formed, it keeps for a good while, whether in the garden itself in cold weather or after being harvested. Stored in a cool place. It's the base of so many warm, comforting winter dishes, from soups to sauces. All these cruciferous vegetables have one thing in common: they ask for a bit more patience than the fast leafy greens, because they take longer to be ready, but they reward you with abundance and resilience in the heart of the cold season. And here's a very important secret about the cruciferous vegetables that changes everything, and that almost no one explains to those who are starting out. Because of that patience they ask for, the planting timing is even more critical with them. Since broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage take more weeks to mature, you need to plant them early enough in this window of August and September so that they have time to grow and form their heads before the harsher cold arrives for good. If you plant too late, you risk the heavy winter arriving before the plant is ready, and then it stalls. That's why I never tire of saying that knowing the date of your first frost is fundamental, and that's exactly the calculation I'm going to teach you very soon. Good news for anyone who's running late: if you think there's no longer time to sow from scratch, many nurseries and garden stores sell the broccoli, kale, and cabbage seedlings already grown at this time of year. And planting the seedling instead of the seed gets you precious weeks ahead. And speaking of timing and of these secrets that separate those who harvest abundantly from those who get frustrated, before I introduce you to the last little group of plants, the herbs and seasonings, I'm going to dedicate a whole topic just to the technique of fall planting. But hold on, because the herbs are still to come. So don't go anywhere, because we're going to meet these little plants that perfume your kitchen now. Now, we close our list of plants with a little group that to me is pure joy, because it turns any simple dish into a special meal and also perfumes your kitchen, the herbs and seasonings. And the first is parsley, that versatile herb that goes with almost everything. Parsley is a wonderful companion of fall planting because it likes the mild climate and keeps producing fresh green little leaves even when the weather cools down quite a bit, withstanding chills that would make many plants give up. It can be a little lazy to germinate, testing your patience at the start. So a golden tip is to soak the seeds in water for a night before planting, which helps wake them up faster. But once it takes, it's a generous source of fresh seasoning for a long time. Right beside it, I place chives, which are one of the easiest and most rewarding plants there is for anyone to grow. Chives are super resilient, grow in any little corner, in a small pot on the kitchen window even. And they're the type you cut with scissors when it's time to cook, and they regrow from the same spot, giving you fresh seasoning again and again all year round. It's plant once and harvest almost forever. And closing our herb group and closing our 15 plants comes cilantro, that herb that stirs up passions. Some people love it and some turn up their nose, but for those who like it, there's nothing like it in freshness. And here's the most important piece of information about it that almost everyone gets wrong. Cilantro is a cool climate herb, and that's why so many people fail when trying to plant it in the heat. In the hot summer, cilantro bolts almost immediately. That is, it shoots up a stalk, flowers, and stops producing leaves quickly, leaving the gardener frustrated. But now, with the approaching fall and the cooler days, it finally thrives and gives you abundant leaves for much longer, the way it should. In other words, this is precisely the best time of year to succeed with it. And there's a bonus. If you let a few cilantro plants flower and form seeds later on, those seeds are the coriander spice used in cooking and can also be saved to replant. All these herbs have the advantage of fitting beautifully in pots, so even someone with only a sunny window or a little balcony can have fresh seasoning at the kitchen door. And here's a precious secret about herbs that will save you money and give you seasoning all year long. So pay attention. Most herbs, like parsley, chives, and cilantro, respond very well to what we call constant harvesting. And this not only gives you seasoning, but makes the plant produce more. It works like this. When you harvest the herbs frequently, always taking the outer sprigs or cutting the tips, you stimulate the plant to get fuller and bushier, producing even more leaves, instead of spending energy trying to flower and go to seed. In other words, the more you harvest with care, the more it gives you. The trick is to never take more than a third of the plant at once, so as not to weaken it. And one last tip that's worth gold. If later on, in the heart of winter, you have too many herbs, you can chop them and freeze them in ice cube trays with a little water or olive oil and have fresh seasoning saved for the harder months. And speaking of having food all year round and of these secrets that make all the difference. Now that you know the 15 plants, the time has come for that topic that truly separates those who harvest abundantly from those who get frustrated, the technique of fall planting. So don't go anywhere at all, because this next topic is the heart of everything. The topic that truly separates those who harvest abundantly from those who get frustrated has arrived. So pay close attention, because here lies the heart of everything. And the first secret, the most important of all, is the one I've been promising since the very beginning: finding out the date of your first frost and using it to calculate when to plant. It sounds complicated, but it's super easy. Every region has an average date on which the first frost of fall or winter usually happens, and you find that out with a quick internet search with the name of your city, or by asking any neighbor who's been gardening for longer, because that's a wisdom the more experienced ones keep by heart. With that date in hand, the math is simple. Every seed packet has written on it how many days that plant takes to be ready for harvest, the so-called days to harvest. You take the date of your first frost and count backward that number of days, plus about 2 weeks of cushion, because in the fall the shorter days make everything a little slower. The result is your ideal planting date. This simple calculation is what ensures the plant has time to grow before the heavy cold. And it's the clever trick that almost no one teaches. With the right date in mind comes the second secret, which is to prepare well the home where these little plants are going to live, the bed. And here there's a detail of the fall that many people ignore. The good news is that planting now, the watering work tends to be much less than in the scorching summer, because the cool weather and the more frequent rains help keep the soil moist on their own. Even so, at the very start, when the seeds are germinating, the soil needs to stay constantly moist, so don't abandon the newly planted ones. Before sowing, put care into the soil, mix in a good compost or humus, that dark, rich organic matter, because well-nourished, loose soil is half the road to a bountiful harvest. And pay attention to the sun, because in the fall it changes. The days get shorter and the sun weaker and lower in the sky. So try to plant in the sunniest spot you have, the one that gets the most hours of direct light. To make up for it, a little corner that was shaded in the summer may be even darker now. So observe your space with that eye before deciding where to plant each thing. And the third secret is what will extend your harvest and protect your effort when the cold really tightens: protection against frost. And it doesn't need anything expensive or complicated, you know? There's a simple material, a light white protective cloth that gardeners call a row cover, which you spread over the plants on the coldest nights. It works like a little blanket. It lets light, air, and water through, but holds a few precious degrees of warmth during the night, enough to protect the little plants from a frost that could burn them. And if you don't have that cloth on hand on a night of unexpected cold, the gardener's improvisation works: an old bed sheet, a cardboard box turned over on top, or even buckets covering the most delicate seedlings already help save your garden. Another wonderful and natural protection is mulch, that layer of straw, dry leaves, or dry grass that you spread over the soil around the plants. It works like a coat for the roots, protecting them from the cold, keeping in moisture, and also holding back the weeds. With these three secrets in hand, the right date, the well-prepared bed, and the protection against cold, you stop planting on luck and start planting with strategy. And now that you know how to plant and protect, the most exciting part of all is left. The one that answers the promise of our title: how to harvest intelligently to have food coming from the garden all year round. So don't go anywhere, because this last topic is where everything turns into abundance on your table. The most exciting part of all has arrived, the one that directly answers the promise of our title: how to harvest intelligently to have food coming from your garden practically all year round. And the first and most powerful secret is the one I planted back in the first topic and promised to go deeper into. succession planting, or planting in waves. Instead of sowing everything at once on a single day of excitement and then finding yourself with 40 lettuce plants ready at the same time, unable to eat them or keep up, you divide your seeds and plant a little bit every 1 or 2 weeks. Think of an organized line instead of a crowd arriving all at once. That way, when the first batch is being harvested and finishing, the second is already at its point, the third is growing, and so on, in a continuous conveyor belt of harvest. It's this simple habit of planting little by little in intervals that turns a single overwhelming harvest into a constant and organized abundance that lasts weeks and weeks. It works beautifully with all the leafy greens, with the radish, the carrot, and the herbs, and it's, honestly, the number one secret of those who harvest all year long. The second secret is a trick with a pretty name that has already appeared in glimpses throughout the video, and that's almost magic. Cut and come again. The idea is simple and generous. Instead of pulling the whole plant out by the root when it's time to harvest, killing it all at once, you only harvest what you need and leave the plant alive to keep producing. Remember I mentioned this with the loose leaf lettuce, the Swiss chard, the kale, and the herbs? Well, it's the same wisdom. You always harvest the outer leaves, the older and bigger ones, leaving the center, the little heart of the plant, intact to keep growing. That way, a single plant feeds you again and again for weeks or even months, instead of giving you just one harvest and being done. It's harvesting with intelligence and with care, respecting the rhythm of the plant. Combine this trick with the succession planting I just taught you, and you create a garden that practically renews itself, always offering you something fresh to harvest. And the third secret is what ensures that nothing, absolutely nothing, is wasted, extending your abundance even into the months when the garden rests, preserving and saving seeds. When that moment comes in which a crop produces everything at once, like a big cabbage or a bunch of mature carrots, you have wonderful options so as not to waste. Many roots, like the carrot, the beet, and the turnip, can be stored for weeks in a cool, dark place or even remain in the cold soil itself, being harvested as needed, like a living pantry. The leftover leaves you can freeze, and vegetables like cabbage and turnip are wonderful fermented or in homemade preserves, keeping the flavor of fall for the whole winter. And the most beautiful secret of all, the one that closes the cycle of life in your garden, let 1 or 2 of your best plants, especially of the herbs and leafy greens, flower and form seeds at the end of the cycle. Harvest those seeds, let them dry well, and store them in a little jar or paper envelope in a dry place. That way, you'll have free seeds for the next season, closing a beautiful cycle in which your garden of today becomes the seed of your garden of tomorrow. It's nature teaching you that true abundance is the kind that renews itself. And so we come to the end of this journey together, and look how much wonderful knowledge you've gained today about how to turn these months of August and September, which so many people waste, into one of the most generous times of the year in your garden. You met 15 plants perfect for sowing now, the fast leafy greens like lettuce, spinach, arugula, and Swiss chard that reward you in the blink of an eye, the sweet fall roots like carrot, radish, beet, and turnip that get tastier with the cold, the robust cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kale, cauliflower, and cabbage that are the true heroines of winter, and the beloved herbs like parsley, chives, and cilantro that perfume your kitchen all year round. More than the list, you took away the secrets that really make the difference: how to calculate the right planting date by your first frost, how to prepare the bed and protect the little plants from the cold, and, most important of all, how to harvest intelligently with succession planting and the trick of harvesting the same plant several times to have fresh food coming from your garden practically all year long. Always remember the bigger message. A bountiful garden isn't about having a big plot of land or being an expert. It's about planting with a little bit of strategy at the right time and harvesting with care and with consistency. And now I need to ask you three little things which help a lot and cost nothing. The first, tell me here in the comments which of these 15 plants you're going to sow first this season, and whether you have a garden in the backyard, a raised bed, or just a few little pots on the balcony, because I love getting to know each of your green little corners. The second, comment the word harvest down below as a small commitment that you're going to get your hands in the soil during this window of August and September without letting it pass. And the third, which is the most beautiful of all, pick up your phone now and share this video with that friend, neighbor, or family member who also loves to plant, or with that person who's always saying they wish they had a garden but never know where to start, because there's no better gift than sharing the joy of harvesting your own food. If this video helped you, leave your like, because it helps this content reach more gardeners like you. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next tips. And tap the bell to be notified whenever I bring a new video made with care for your garden. Now grab your seeds, take advantage of this magical window of the year, and go plant, because the best time to start a garden is now. A big hug, happy harvests, and I'll be waiting for you in our next video.